Welcome to Shoponomics, brought to you by eMarketed, a digital agency working with small business that drives leads and revenue. On this show, you'll learn from experts with a combined 40 years of experience in selling online how to master the art of e-commerce. And now, here are your hosts, Matt Ramage and Daniel Solomon.
All right, folks, welcome to Shoponomics. We've got a special guest today from SpyFu. So, yeah, welcome to the show, Jeff.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Matt. Daniel?
Yeah, good to have you on. We're definitely, we use SpyFu, and yeah, I've definitely been a fan of SpyFu for a number of years. So, yeah, I guess quick introduction. Jeff is a sales manager and does a lot of different roles in addition to that at SpyFu, but he's been with SpyFu for coming up on his 8-year anniversary. So yeah, congratulations on that. I was telling Jeff before the show, I was like, 8 years in the internet world is like 20 years in most other worlds. So yeah, welcome to the show, Jeff. I guess why don't you give us maybe a brief, I guess high level overview of SpyFu for our fans that haven't heard of it, what it's meant for, what kind of market share it has, and that kind of thing.
Understood. So SpyFu is a competitive intelligence tool that focuses mostly on keyword terms, ad copy, content ideas on the paid side, on the organic side. It acts as a big library of competitive intelligence in regards to a website's presence on Google paid or organic search. So the basic idea is that if you were a plumber or someone who is in a just starting out and doesn't necessarily know what to do, what keywords to buy, what content to write about, what to use in your titles, your tags, your H1s, H2s, that type of thing. You go into SpyFu, you drop in a very large, successful competitor. They don't necessarily have to be someone of similar scale. If you were a plumber, I would have you go look at Roto-Rooter or maybe Angie's List. And then we go out what they're advertising on, what they're organically ranked on, what sort of content allows them to be positioned in those spots. And then you just take that stuff and implement it on your own scale. So that is the general idea of how SpyFu works. There's other, things that you can do with it, but that's the main value proposition.
Got it. So would you say, as far as like your end user, are we talking agencies, small business owners, kind of mix of everything, marketers, consultants?
All of those in mostly similar proportions. I'd say our two main groups of people that use us are going to be like professional marketers and small businesses, and then agencies are going to be like in third place. Anybody that has to deal with keywords in a practical sense, or anybody that needs to kind of choose direction of a paid campaign, of an organic campaign at a slightly higher level, we'll probably have a reason to look at our data at some point or another.
Got it. So Daniel, what do you
any sense of what the market share is for SpyFu, like in your space versus competitors?
It's kind of hard for me to determine. So our two biggest competitors are Ahrefs and SEMrush. Sometimes people also compare us to Moz. So all those businesses will share some sort of overlap with SpyFu. We're definitely a lot smaller than SEMrush and Ahrefs in total revenue and number of employees. But to be honest, I don't really know how to determine total market share between the three of us.
Gotcha. And how does SpyFu, is it a secret how you get all your data, or can you elaborate or illuminate the how you, like where all the data comes from?
Absolutely. It's not a secret. Some individual data sources are secret, but overall, the main chunk of SpyFu's data comes from scraped public Google search results. In fact, most tools that work similar to ours are going to operate in this fashion. In layman's terms, we got a big list of, I think we've got around 2 billion keyword terms, and we are going to perform a search on those terms roughly once a month, every month, and we're going to record the results of those searches. The searches happen from essentially randomized locations within the country of origin. And we search so much that we have a very wide view, but we're not able to essentially say, hey, I want to see results only from Phoenix, Arizona, Dallas, Texas. It's always going to be a conglomeration.
Hmm.
Um, so that data gets searched, and then we essentially, as it's searched and we process it, we load it into the website live for some things. Other things wait on sort of a monthly roll up that tends to happen around between the first and the fifth each month. And then we just essentially aggregate it all by keyword, term, or domain. So that is going to be the main portion of where a website is positioned, how it changes month over month, what their ads are saying, where they are seen. The organic side is inherently more visible than the paid side. It's really not hard to get organic data at all. There's no hiding it.
Right.
There's no date parting, geo targeting, budget limitations. But on the paid side, there's essentially like an order of magnitude less data available
Hmm.
because of all those factors. On top of, sometimes Google just doesn't want to serve ads when they can tell that they're slightly being scraped.
Yeah.
So ad data is a little bit trickier to get than the organic side.
When I think about trying to, like if I were trying to pull some of the data that I might see in a SpyFu report, excuse me, I would, have a keyword. I would search for the keyword to get an idea of like where the keyword were, what the results were, what the ads that were running. Then I would run it through maybe Google's keyword tool to get an idea of like cost and like average monthly clicks and things like that. That portion of the data in SpyFu, is that coming from Google or is that being um, estimated by SpyFu?
Some of it is and some of it isn't. So search volume. Uh, I hope none of us get sued for me saying this, but Google search volume numbers are crap.
Yeah,
Everything that they publish is essentially a weird, not quite lie, but it's not really
right.
how humans think about search volume.
Hmm.
So for that type of data, we have to essentially finagle proper normal volume numbers. That's some of the stuff that we use third-party data for, and we do a
Yeah.
little bit of estimating. So our search volume numbers are going to look different than what you see in Google, but they're going to be more in terms of what a human would expect search volume to represent, where there's a difference in our system between singular and plural, and well, Google might mash all that stuff together.
Hmm.
Um, Search volume comes from, we use Google's data to kind of triangulate, but it's not necessarily the main source
Yeah.
of search volume. Stuff like cost per click, that for that stuff, Google is essentially the only source of that data that's reliable. But reliable is kind of a misnomer there too. Search volume or cost per click is going to fluctuate based off geo targets,
Yeah.
quality score, the phase of the moon. It's going to be all over the place. So we publish a number that we pull from Google, and if it looks too weird, we don't publish it.
Okay.
Hmm.
But
Interesting.
I usually tell people you probably want to check Google's keyword planner before you
Yeah.
go on stuff. We're good enough for planning purposes, but when
Yeah.
it comes time to bid, you want that most recent data,
Yeah.
and Google's the only shop in town.
Hmm.
Then there's some other data that's kind of funky. We have a what we'd call a clicks metric, and then a not clicked percentage. The clicks metric we pull from Google, and what the clicks metric represents is the amount of users that are going to interact with a regular paid or organic result. So you have like a search volume that say like 100,000 searches a month for the keyword term new shoes. But then the clicks number will say 70K clicks, which means that you're losing 30% of the people that search new shoes. They don't click on any results that the system would recognize. They might on occasion click on a maps result, an image result, or most relevant to your audience, a Google shopping result, but they're not clicking on a standard paid search ad. They're not clicking on a regular organic result. That we acquire that through, well, sort of through third parties, but also we check with some proprietary tools in there. And that type of data, the click data always comes from Google, but the percentages of how it breaks down between not clicked and then sometimes between paid and organic clicks, that we derive internally. Now, here's where it gets weird. Google's click number is not always reliable. So we actually trust our internally generated metrics a little bit more. So when I talk to customers, I tell them, hey, this clicks number, trust it until it looks weird. And if it looks weird, it is weird and don't trust it. It isn't always helpful for people that are just starting out, but at least it's an honest answer.
Yeah.
That's great. So I definitely gets me thinking. I mean, are you like, is Google aware of you, and is there some kind of, I mean, do you guys get shut down by Google as far as like scraping data, and or do you have to hide yourself, or you know what I mean, or?
So I don't know the total full story. I think only Mike Roberts, our owners, really has a firm grasp on this. But my understanding of the situation is that, well, Google definitely knows we exist and they know what we do. And they, back in the day, their terms and conditions, we definitely danced in the gray area for many years. But I think 4 or 5 years ago, maybe sooner than that, maybe it was only 3 years ago, Google actually changed their terms to allow systems like ours to exist without necessarily dancing in a gray area. There's still, especially on the paid ad side, there's a matter of Google doesn't always want to serve us everything that we are looking for. And so getting good paid data is still a matter of trying to kind of dance with Google and get good stuff, but not break the rules so bad that they send us a letter. And so we've been doing that for a while. We're very comfortable with that type of thing. But it does mean that we don't have like a direct feed from them. You know, we're not like plugging into their API and they're sending us stuff. They're just aware that we're gathering it and they're not making any effort to stop it. Well, not much of an effort.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. Would you say there are any limitations in place that SpyFu has to navigate around in order to kind of get the data, or?
Yeah, there's a few limitations. So the limitations are we can't click on ads, so we essentially can't get landing pages. So we don't have any landing page data. The fact of the matter is that oftentimes just like date parting and geo-targeting very much limit the types of ads that can be served. There's certain industries that our system happens to be really bad at because of the nature of those industries. So like car dealerships, their keyword base is always long tail because you got year, make, and model, not to mention usually a location that people are searching out of. To bring people into a car dealership, it requires a specific geographic area that they're not really advertising outside of. You know, maybe as someone's traveling 40, 50 miles to go to a car dealer, you know, and that's on the outside. So the nature of, they always have new keywords. Those keywords are always long tail, and their advertising is always geo-targeted, means that we're only going to be picking up a very small fraction of what a localized car dealer could possibly be doing online. While if we go look at someone like Carvana, well, they're not necessarily in every state, but they're in a lot of states, and they're going to be a lot easier to see because of that. anything that is operating out of a single geographic location is generally going to be pretty tough to visit. And then there's also some types of businesses that don't advertise on Google paid search because it doesn't make sense for them to. Like restaurants aren't doing a lot of Google AdWords. Certain types of B2B industries don't do a lot of paid search marketing because it's hard to prevent consumers from clicking on your expensive, machinery related topics, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So those are major limitations. Also, the other limitations that people very commonly ask for, like, Instagram and Facebook advertising data. That's not really something that we do. So I don't really consider a limitation, but certainly it's something that people ask for commonly, and we have to say that that's not something that we can provide, unfortunately.
Got it.
So I'm not sure how relevant this is to SpyFu necessarily, but maybe to Google, this question could have some relevance. But so the move away or the move toward cookieless tracking, how do you see that affecting, I would say maybe Google's ability to really fully understand user behavior, kind of moving forward? It seems like we're going that direction. And is Google, for privacy's sake, is Google going to be losing something as far as understanding searchers' behaviors?
I imagine that they are. I mean, cookies are helpful. You need them for certain types of like remarketing campaigns and things of that nature. So if they're going full cookieless and they don't have a way to make up that sort of this user's interested in XYZ, I imagine that certain types of ads would be less effective. I don't know that it's necessarily going to tremendously affect like the regular paid and organic search, just because those don't necessarily need cookies to function.
Yeah.
I think there is an aspect of them that does use cookies, but most of the time it's just, hey, they've typed in this term, display the ad.
Right.
So it shouldn't affect SpyFu all that badly, but I can definitely see like most of display advertising taking a hit from not having that cookie data available.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what are some of the ways SpyFu can help marketers sell more online? I guess with regards to SEO and PPC.
So, online retail's oftentimes going to be a pretty good for SpyFu with higher ticket items. However, if it's something low ticket that would normally display in Google Shopping, that's not something the system currently is able to monitor. Although I think might be a project for next year. So let's say that you were selling, let's say something like mid-range to high tier in terms of online expenses, electronics or camping gear or, car parts, stuff like that. You would essentially want to pop into a nice big established company, someone like REI, any of the auto dealers online, Best Buy, New Way. You go in there and they've got a ton of terms. They've got terms that aren't going to be relevant for you, but it's also fairly easy to filter down to terms that are. So if you're only handling a very small portion of like car parts, like you guys sell custom mufflers or something, you could go into a giant repository of keyword data in one of those big, giant, massive companies, just filter down to anything that has the phrase mufflers in it. And suddenly you're going to have a big old list of keyword terms that you already know work on some level because we've seen XYZ company advertise on them. And then we're also going to have their ad samples. How many ad samples are there going to be dependent upon, how big that company is and how easily we're able to see them. But you're usually going to have some ammunition, a nice jumping off point to say with confidence, all right, I'm not just throwing money into this internet black hole. I'm basing my decisions off of what appears to be best practices amongst, major popular websites. So that's on the paid side. The organic side, you have a lot more open-ended things that you can do with the keyword term data, right? There's all sorts of different places that stuff can go. You can help choose content for like blogs and articles, but there's a specific area of SpyFu that I really like called top pages. What top pages does is it sorts through all the pages of a competitor's website and tells us which ones are either estimated to get the most clicks or which ones are seen on the most keyword terms. Online retail is a little funky because sometimes you'll visit a page and you're like, I don't really know why this page sees success. And the system SpyFu can't really answer the why, but it can pull up all these popular pages so that you can cast a human eye over it and be like, what are the aspects of this page that are interesting? You know, for online retail specifically, or like for shopping related stuff, you might consider, what are the widgets on the side? You know, how's the layout of the products? What information is contained there? Do they have pictures? Do they have slideshows? Because SEO isn't just a matter of, you know, putting keywords on a page. It's how users interact with all the aspects of the page. Do they click on stuff? Do they scroll? Do they leave the website immediately? And using the tool allows you to kind of get a focused idea of the pages that work versus the pages that don't work.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's great.
yeah, all the value is going to come from being able to interpret that competitor data and then implement it on your own website.
Got it. Great. Yeah, anything. So you'd mentioned one thing that might be worked on for next year with SpyFu. Anything else? So you're saying you guys might kind of try to dive down into like cheaper products to kind of provide more data, or
We don't cover currently Google Shopping results.
Google Shopping. Got it.
We are looking at ways to do that. We think that the data that we need is there. So we should be able to provide some information on Google Shopping results at some point, but that's kind of a big project. But luckily, we've got all the engineers that we need now to sort of make those things happen. Currently, right now, we're doing some, it's sort of a combined new feature that'll help people like find. One of the problems with SpyFu is it's got a lot of data, but when new people come in, they don't necessarily know where to go, what they want to find, what actually can provide them value. So right now, one of our quality of life features that we're building is is a pathway and a resource area where people can be like, all right, this is what I want. This is the vague idea that I'm trying to solve, and the system will be able to direct them to the pages of most value. So that's what's currently being worked on. That probably will get launched by the end of the year. Then we'll likely be working on improving some of our reporting features. Our system is it's really easy to get data on competitors, but our older reports were made in like 2011 and they were already out of date by 2014, and we haven't gotten like a really, really good full featured reporting system to replace them because the old thing's made up of impossible to update spaghetti code. So we're gonna have to rip that out and completely replace it, so it can take into account all of our new data types and things like that. So that's on the docket. And then after those two tasks are likely completed, we'll probably jump into that assessing Google Shopping. We did recently add a bunch of international markets to our system. Likely we'll be doing quality of life and feature improvements to those international markets that we've added, just because our system was primarily US and UK up until, a year and a half ago, basically. So there's a lot of catch up to be doing because we're just a small shop and there's never really quite enough developers to go around, so to speak.
Yeah. What would you say as far as people that use it? Is it lean heavier towards SEO or PPC, or is it 50-50 kind of, or both?
So our biggest competitors, SEMrush and Ahrefs, arguably have more bells and whistles on the SEO side. But the one thing that SpyFu does better than anybody else right now is our paid data. I would say that our usage case is 50-50, but I think we're starting to lean more towards the paid side as people are realizing that we simply just have the most.
Mm.
You know, paid data is really hard to gather, so anybody that has any of it can provide some value, but if you have the most of it, that's where people are going to congregate, and that's the stuff that they're going to use heavily.
Yep, that makes sense. All right, Jeff, now we're on to the rapid fire. We're just going to ask you a series of questions, and some are fun, some relate to your work, and some don't. So, yeah, favorite coffee?
Funny enough, I'm the one guy in the office that doesn't drink coffee.
Oh, yeah. That's funny. That is funny. Oh, are you a tea drinker then?
You know what? I actually don't drink a lot of caffeine.
Good for you.
Here, my vice is this Soylent meal in a bottle stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that's not necessarily for everybody, but that's generally my morning drink.
Okay.
Cats, dogs, or other? Which do you prefer?
Love all animals, but I own cats because, if you leave a dog alone for 48 hours, you got a 10% chance you're coming back to a dead dog. If cats alone for 48 hours, it's a 10% chance they even notice, and that
I love it. TikTok versus Instagram.
I don't do a lot of the TikTok, so I Instagram by default.
Okay.
Best time of day to go for a walk in Scottsdale?
Night for the people watching.
All right.
Okay. What's your most used software on your computer? What do you use the most?
Steam.
Okay.
Ooh, all right.
Actually, you know what? That's a lie. On this computer, it's definitely Zoom, or I guess I'm still one of the people that uses the Outlook application rather than the web app.
Okay. What's Steam? Is that a
Steam is a computer game library thing where you can play computer games.
Oh, got it.
Are
any interest in the Steam Deck?
My buddy has one, and he's all for it. But I don't know, if I'm gonna play a computer game, I want my whole fancy rig there I can get down on it. I've got a Switch if I need something to do on an airplane.
Okay. What game are you currently? I'm cheating here. I'm asking more questions. But what game are you currently playing?
The
most.
The game I'm currently playing the most would be Total War Warhammer 3.
Okay.
The third installation in a long, very good series.
Awesome. Do you prefer podcasts or reading?
Reading. I don't consume a lot of video content. I read pretty quick, and sometimes in video content, people take a while to get to the point, and it bothers me.
I gotcha. Favorite book then?
Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson.
Okay. I'll have to check that out.
Oh, that's the one that inspired Google. It's a cyberpunk story. Very weird. It's from the 90s. Holds up amazingly. It's one of the few pieces of cyberpunk fiction that can be held up as like a great American novel, as an actual proper piece of literature. It's got all the makings of an actual classic piece of fiction, but it's also wickedly weird and funny. It has my highest recommendation.
Okay, man, you got me sold. I'm gonna buy it right after this is done.
Alexa, Siri, or Google Assistant, or forget all that stuff?
Mostly forget all that stuff, but when I'm ever in an argument with my family, I'll like to whip out my cell phone and be like, "Okay, Google," and then just ask Google the question directly in my family's face so we can see what the results are.
That's great.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jeff. That brings us to the end of our episode. Yeah, why don't you tell people where they can find you or SpyFu?
Yeah. If anybody has questions about SpyFu, you just go to www.spyfu.com. I am sales and training, so I give demos. You don't have to be a member to get a demo. I'll show it any old time. We have Danielle and Amanda are our real people who work on our live support chat during normal business hours. They're also good resources to ask questions about. We're always running deals. There's all sorts of crazy ways to get SpyFu for mega cheap, usually just on the landing page. Yeah, if anybody has questions about the tool, I'd be more than happy to get those things answered in some way, shape, or form.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jeff. It was great talking with you.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Nice speaking with you both. I hope to speak with you all again soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Shoponomics, brought to you by eMarketed. Please make sure to share with your friends and rate us on your favorite podcast player. If you listened to the show today, make sure you watch the show next time on Spotify or YouTube. If you'd like to be on the show, please send us a DM on Twitter @_Shoponomics. And to learn more about growing your business, visit emarketed.com. Until next time.